Welcome to EyE on You.
The accounting profession plays a crucial role in assuring the integrity of financial information, and it is fundamental to the business and financial market operation of Hong Kong. The PRC government reiterated that Hong Kong's role as an international asset management and risk management center will be strengthened. Moreover, ever since the HKICPA agreement was implemented, Hong Kong's accounting services have benefited from a range of policies, such as the Hong Kong accounting service providers can cover the mainland China market if they can meet certain criteria.
Yes, proximity to fast-growing economies like mainland China and Asian countries, and Hong Kong's use of international accounting practice attract global accountancy firms to set up in the city. Inevitably, there are also lots of opportunity in Hong Kong's sound regulatory framework, which uphold the expertise and ethics of accounting professionals, maintaining the status of Hong Kong as an international financial and business center. In 2018, the government proposed amendments to the Financial Reporting Council Ordinance, transferring the powers to regulate auditors of public interest entity from Hong Kong ICPA to the Financial Reporting Council. This marks the beginning of having an independent regulatory body for accounting profession, aligning our practice with other major economic and trade partners such as the mainland, UK, US, Singapore, and Australia. The government is now proposing to expand the powers currently vested with the FRC, including inspection, investigations, and discipline of PIE auditors to cover all auditors. Today, it is our pleasure to invite Mr. Anthony Wu to talk about the latest proposal regarding the FRC and the development of accounting industry. Mr. Wu, who is a former managing partner of Ernst & Young, China's business in 1996. He became chairman in 2000. In 2010, Wu was elected chairman of the Hong Kong General Chambers of Commerce. Mr. Wu is also a standing committee member of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference National Committee of the People's Republic of China.
Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you.
What are the functions of HKICPA and FRC, and why do we need the reform now?
HKICPA is the Hong Kong Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and FRC is the Financial Reporting Council. But if we look back at the history of the accounting profession, in the past, it's really the accounting profession. We sort of set out the rules, the auditing standards, accounting standards, and we have our own investigation power, disciplinary, and whatever. But in the year 2000, if you remember, that major audit failure of Enron really triggered off the whole world to think again, oh, should we be having some independent body to look at the accounting profession? And hence the setting up of the PCAOB in America, which is really an independent body looking at the accounting profession to look at the conduct of the audit, the various professional issues. And UK follows suit, and a lot of the other countries do that. And Hong Kong started doing it a few years ago. At the moment, the function of FRC is just to look at what we call the public interest entities, meaning its companies. But as we all know, the government is thinking of really transferring quite a bit of power from the Hong Kong ICPA to FRC. Really, it's a world trend. And secondly, I think it would be better for the investors, stakeholders to see, or at least I have an independent body looking after or the accounting profession. I think this is really the history. But one of the major concerns is, at the moment, HKICPA training, issuing license, examination, investigation, disciplinary. But now, with transferring all this to FRC, what is HKICPA going to do? Yeah. So I think that is a question mark in everybody's mind. And if I look at the government's paper, they are just going to be looking at accounting standards, education, auditing standards, and various things, and leave the other part, really the regulatory part, to FRC. So quite a major change.
So moving the regulatory the powers to the FRC, that we can understand. Then why we have to put the trainings and the training and maybe the licensing together with the
the training was still with the training is still with the ICPA,
okay.
But it's the licensing, which is I think everybody is questioning, and a lot of the accountants are now wondering. Now, okay, I go and take the exam. If the HKICPA I pass, so I get a license, so I can call myself an accountant. So I pay a fee to HKICPA. But if I want to practice, the practicing certificates is not issued, or it's going to be issued by FRC. So I have to apply for another license from FRC and do have to pay again. At the moment, of course, you have to pay 2 fees. One is a fee that you call yourself as an accountant. And secondly, I think you pay about $8,000 a year to get a practicing certificate. But in the past, this function will be split. Membership, HKICPA, practicing certificate, the other side. So I think really it's really world trend. Is we want a powerful, independent body to regulate the accounting profession. And I think this is what everybody is looking at. And Hong Kong being a major financial center, we do want our stakeholders to have confidence in our financial reporting.
Right. What are the other benefits that the reform will bring, in your opinion? And is it going to reduce compliance burden and costs?
You have asked a very difficult question. Now, if I look at the principle, it is right. We are moving towards independent regulators looking at the accounting profession, auditing, accounting together, which the direction is absolutely right. But if I look at it from the accounting profession, they would be a bit worried. Why am I getting some non-accountants to look at me? Do they understand me? Or if they have not done any auditing before, how do they know what I've done? But if I look at the whole setup, I think FRC is quite well set up with a lot of experienced, qualified accountants. So I think that issues can be resolved. But again, from especially smaller practitioners, they're a bit concerned that the onus be too much. Because I'm only auditing maybe a private limited company. Why should I be subject to FRC's scrutiny? I'm not like I'm auditing HSBC or ICBC. Okay, you can look at it, but there is a big difference between major listed companies and private businesses.
So there must be a very huge reform in the FRC as well, because they need more manpowers and more professionals to look at the whole profession, because there are more than like 34,000 accountants in Hong Kong.
Yeah, absolutely. At the moment, and I was quite surprised how efficient FRC is. They have only about 50 people at the moment. But of course, they're only looking at listed companies at the moment. But when you transfer all this power to FRC, I think they do need to increase their manpower substantially, because now you're looking at all the practicing accountants. You're not only looking at listed companies, you're looking at the non-listed companies. You're looking at big accounting firms, the Big Four, then you look at the medium-sized firms, and you will also be looking at the smaller sized firms. So, the onus is quite high. And also, investigation, disciplinary, all this would take time. But I do hope that this actually would help the whole streamline the whole process. Because I think you heard in other professions, like the medical profession, a complaint. From the time you complain, by the time the hearing is done, it may be 10, 12 years. In the accounting profession, it's about the same, 10, 15 years. And, it's a drag on the person who has been complained. But if they could really shorten this process, that would help everyone. But I think the most important thing is Hong Kong as a major financial center. If we can have quality financial reporting and supported by an independent regulator, I think that would help to enhance Hong Kong's position as a major international financial center.
So will you agree that this will improve or enhance the professionalism for accounting?
I certainly do. And I do hope that especially what we call a smaller or medium-sized accounting firm will come to terms with it, because I know they're worried.
So what they are worried about?
They worry about, I'm only a small firm. My firm's only 30 people. But if I'm going to be subject to FRC's review, I'm going to fail. I'm going to penalize, and it's my license to be taken away. But again, if you look at the government's paper, all these what we call the penalties that the Hong Kong ICPAs can impose is exactly the same as FRC, no more. So like, I can't remember the exact figure, like if you are sort of a small medium-sized firm, private enterprise, the maximum fine is only $500,000. Not only it's $500,000, FRC would have the same ceiling. So not like that FRC is going to impose $10 million on you. So far as the penalty is concerned, it's the same. And as Christopher Hui, our secretary, said, really I'm really moving houses. The contents is the same because the penalty, the disciplinary, the investigation is the same. I'm just moving this part of the function from Hong Kong ICPA to FRC, which again is a matter of perception. It's not accountants looking at accountants. It's really an independent body, not practicing accountants, looking at the practicing accountants.
Then for smaller firms or for medium-sized firms, they wouldn't have that concern because it's actually the same regulations and same reporting requirements and so.
Yeah, but I think when this news first came out, I mean, they were worried. But I think both Kevin Wong, the chairman of the FRC, and the government has been trying very hard in the last couple of weeks to explain to the smaller size medium firms or different organizations to assure them that really it's moving house. It's just really not putting additional burden on them. But I can see, when you're used to something, you rather continue to be governed by the same body. Say the quo. Something new. I mean, everybody will be, what is the real motive behind it? And the other concern is some accountants who are not practicing what we call the accountants in the commercial field, the CFO of companies. They are wondering, are we going to be governed by FRC in the future? Because at the moment, they are really not being regulated by anyone, except if they're CFO of the
even not the ICPA.
But if you're CFO of a listed company, then you are governed by SFC and the stock exchange. But a lot of the accountants, they're working in major private companies. They said, are we going to be monitored? But I think the government has actually come up with some statements saying, look, we are not going to just look at you. But if there's a complaint against you, you have done something wrong, then that is the trigger point. They will not automatically go and sort of regulate all the individual CFOs.
But I think in general, for the profession, they still need the secretary to explain further on what happened next and what will be the future of FRC.
Absolutely. I think, as we all know, communication, explanation is very important. I think when the secretary first wrote in his blog, and I think it was, what is going to happen? And admittedly, over the last 2-3 weeks, both the chairman of FRC and the government have been to many forums, webinar, and seeing individual interest groups, small, medium-sized firms, big four accounting firms, and to explain the rationale behind it. And I believe that I think most of the people now come to terms with it. But again, the devil is in the details.
Can you explain more and
and
let people know clearly what happened next?
Exactly.
So just now you have mentioned about Hong Kong is a major financial center.
Yes.
And how do you think our simple tax system and the high degree of economic freedom encourages investment here?
I think first of all, our simple tax system. We do have a simple tax system. Are we a very low tax area? Yes and no. All the other countries or places have reduced their tax rate very much in the last 2 decades. So in order to compete with Hong Kong, we do have a simple tax system. And one thing I think is a rule of law, which I think is very important. Because if you look at a lot of multinationals, a lot of investors, when they come to Hong Kong, because there's certainty, I know what environment I'm operating in. I know what tax I'm paying. I know what license I need to apply. And I know how long it takes to apply for all this license. Plus, we do have a very good supply of professional services, accountants, lawyers, bankers, valuers, and whatever. So I think people, to me, in order to continue our being the major international financial center, what Hong Kong should do is we have to consolidate of what we have, mainly the rule of law and all this attract the right people and ensure that the profession is being properly grown and monitored. It's really attracting talent. Human capital, to me, is the most important thing these days. Everybody, every country, every company is competing for human capital.
Right.
And how can we attract them? Hong Kong is a very attractive place. But honestly, what happened in 2019 did stop a lot of people coming to Hong Kong. And I knew, I had a lot of experiences because I deal with a lot of international companies and investors and investment funds. And when they saw what happened in Hong Kong in the latter part of 2019, they said, there are many
confidence.
Yeah, there are many places to make money. I don't need to risk anything coming to Hong Kong. So I think that with the security law and all this, and I think that Hong Kong is now returning to be a very stable city that we can now actually look forward to rebuilding it, regain confidence and attract more people to come. But honestly, I had a major investment fund, I knew of a major investment who actually had offered 2 top jobs, one American, one Singaporean, all going to start in the beginning of last year. High salary, bonus, everything. But they said no, after seeing what Hong Kong went through. But you know, that's the problem we're facing. Like, you're a lawyer. You love to go to an area that you can do your best and excel yourself, but you need a politically certain safe place to do. And I remember back in the old days when I was an accountant at EyE, and we did a survey of the top 500 companies and said, now, when you consider to invest in a country or place, what is your top 20 priorities? 99% said political stability. That means I feel safe. And then the rule of law and whatever. So I think now that we have national security law and a lot of other things, I do hope we can return to normal and attract more people to come to Hong Kong.
Talking about attracting talents, how would you say that what is the future for accounting in Hong Kong as a profession? Or will you will you say it's a good profession for young people to start with?
The accounting profession is always a good training ground for young people, because at a very young age of your career, you're exposed to many different companies, and then you'll be exposed to senior executive, and you go auditing and whatever. So it's just very good exposure. And if you look at all companies or all entities or even government, what is the end product? It's a financial reporting. Government, how much deficit, how much tax, hospital authority, income, expenses, deficit, Jardines, Swire, Cheung Kong. At the end, it's a financial reporting. So if you have knowledge of accounting, it helps you to grow. You don't need to be the CFO, you can be the managing director or CEO. If you look at HSBC until the last 2, 3, all their number one were accountants by training, because accountant does give a very solid training for the professional people. So I think it's still very good. But on the other hand, the income may not be as attractive as before. Also, the expansion actually is in the mainland. So I think in attracting more talent to come into the accounting profession, I think we have to look at a much bigger area, the Greater Bay Area, the mainland. And I give you an example. Back in, let's say, that year 2000, 20 years ago, all the big 4 accounting firms in Hong Kong maybe 1,000, 2,000 people. In the mainland, about the same. Now, all these big 4, the number of staff they have in the mainland is probably 5 to 10 times of Hong Kong. So where's the growth coming from? It's in the mainland. And I can give you an example. That was when I was the chairman of Ernst & Young, and I asked one of my younger partners, I said, we'll go to Beijing And he negotiated with me. He said, "Oh, can I go every Monday and come back Friday?" I said, "No." He said, "Oh, I pay for myself." I said, "No." He said, "Oh." So I go Sunday night, I come back Saturday night. I said, "No." I said, "I want to integrate into the community." And I think this is really good potential for you, a good training ground for you. So we negotiated. I wanted him to go for 5 years. At the end, I settled for 3 years. Oh. So reluctantly, he went. He doesn't want to come back anymore. Oh. So whenever I go to Beijing, he said, "Oh, Mr. Wu, I'm glad I listened to you. The world is much bigger here." And I think what we need to do is to let the younger people see what opportunities are available in the mainland. Plenty. And not just Greater Bay Area, Beijing, Chengdu, whatever. Plenty. And if I look at a lot of these opportunities in the mainland, it's like the early 70s in Hong Kong, plenty of opportunities. So it's really how to urge the young people that, hey, we have a very big economy behind us. And as I said, China is the second largest economy in the world, and we are right at the doorstep. And if we don't get on to this economic express, what are we doing? Every company or people in other parts of the world try to get into the China economy, and we are here.
So, Anthony, what are the important qualities necessary for accounting careers?
I think, first of all, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. Average intelligence like me is okay. I think it's an analytical mind and have a skepticism to see, let's say if you're doing an audit, and you just have to think of, is there something wrong? If you look at a big industry and whatever. And I quote an example, there was this major audit fraud case back many, many years ago before I actually went to profession in America. One of the insurance companies, the profits rocketed up every year. And at the end, we found out all this were fake. And only if the auditor had been able to look at the insurance policies that the company wrote, actually more than the whole population of America. Impossible. How can one company write policies for few times the American population? So these are the skepticism, the analytical mind that you do need to have. And I think it's really the perseverance, the determination, and very hardworking. And, accountants, to be honest, almost no work-life balance. Because especially during busy season, when you have to report your results within X number of months, or when you're doing IPO and M&A, really, every minute is money. And the pressure is high, but the satisfaction is also very high.
I think pressure is one of the things professional needs to deal with.
Yeah.
Same as for the lawyers.
Yeah.
And also
you need to go to court tomorrow and you just do it. Yeah.
Still.
Because I went through many of these major acquisitions or IPOs. If you deliver one day, the company may lose $10-20 million interest. So you just work 24 hours trying to get a deal done. And I remember when I was young, when I first came, that was after coming back to Hong Kong for a few years, that was I think in 1985, when I did a major acquisition, and we need to do this within a week. Major acquisition and restructuring. Otherwise, the bank is going to call the liquidator. And I remember I worked like 18-20 hours a day, and then go back home and take a shower and take a quick nap and went back to work. And after a week, when the whole deal was done, the satisfaction that you had was not money or anything can measure.
I think it's a norm for all accountants.
Right,
they have been go through all of the pressures and the stress.
And then also, I think being an accountant, you just asked that question before, is really the exposure. Because especially now with the opening of the China market in the mainland, Greater Bay Area, you get to go to Beijing, Chengdu, and whatever. You see all sorts of different things, and which actually help you grow in your career, because you have met so many people, you've been to so many places. Imagine how many jobs can you be traveling to different parts of the world and talking to most senior guy to very junior guy. in a few years.
So just now we talked about the Greater Bay Area opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So what should the university student or secondary school students should prepare themselves to open up their mind or to explore more when they are still in education?
First of all, they should learn Mandarin. But I understand a lot. In fact, a lot of the Mandarin, the language actually is no problem now for many students. I think it's sort of an open mind. A lot of people don't want to go north of the border. And I think secondary students, school students, university students, they should have more exchange program. Just go and see it. You know, I think once you see it, you believe it. I remember the first time I went to Shenzhen in 1985. Shenzhen and Hong Kong are two different places. But now, what's the difference? No difference. They have bigger buildings. They have a lot more green in the city and the highway, everything. So, you know, the mainland cities have grown very, very fast. And once you are in and you see it and see how vibrant it is, then you know this is a place you want to be. And I remember, again, back in my camping days, I could see a few of the major companies. They actually held a board meeting, the international board meeting in Beijing or Shanghai. And the chairman said, I want the whole board to come. Let them feel the vibrance, the potential of China, so the board can make a very easy decision when they are considering investing in China.
Right. I think for university students, especially, they can have they can join more like exchange programs.
Yeah, plenty.
When they are still in university.
Yeah. And I think one of the problems with maybe I may be biased, but when we were young, well, yes, you were young. When we were young, we love to go to various places, even for a week's exchange in Japan, whatever. But now it looks like a lot of students don't even want to get outside of Hong Kong. And when I do a lot of sharing at universities, I said we have to get rid of this island culture. We always feel, we are in a very sought after island. We have everything here. Yes, we do have everything here, but we're too small. Look at the world. The world is a lot bigger. And we just have to forget about this island culture and go out and look at the world. And I'm not just talking about the mainland. Go to America, go to Russia, go to India. I think the more you see, when you have a bigger and better spectrum of the world, you mature faster and you learn a lot faster. And you can actually absorb a lot of other people's good things.
And also the money also come from the market size,
yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, look at China. I mean, all these major companies, now all close to 1.4 billion people. Who doesn't want to go into China? Right. And I remember this was the chairman of Ernst & Young. I call Phil Lascombe, very visionary. He said, that was 20 years ago. He said, if a company does not have a major operation in China, they can't be the top companies. Look at Apple.
Right.
Look at everyone.
That's true.
They all have major companies. And all this, now we're talking about biomedicine, all these pharmaceutical companies, they are all eyeing on China because the market is so huge, 1.4 billion people. And I remember, again, when my firm went to China back in 1980, was we did a feasibility for a major beverages company, which is the easiest to do is, if at that time China may only have 800 million people, but if every 10 people consume one bottle, and if you make 10 cents per bottle, you're okay.
Yeah.
So it's just a sheer market size that would be so attractive to all major companies.
Just now you've mentioned about the vibrance and potential in mainland China. But for Hong Kong people, especially for the youngsters, whenever they think about going to work in China, mainland China, they will think about the salary level over there is very low. Do you think that it is really that low over there?
No. If I give you an example, accountant. Back in 2020, back in the year 2000, a graduate from a university going to Big Four probably earned 12,000 Hong Kong dollars. In those days in Beijing, from Tsinghua, from Fudan, or from Beida, may be earning 800 RMB a month. Now, the same in RMB.
Oh.
So when the salary is higher in the mainland, because the market is bigger.
Wow.
So maybe I may be talking of the accounting profession, but I'm sure if you are good, you can get the market price. And market price now for talent is very high. If you look at investment bankers, which is one of the top earners in the financial market, I'm sure the head of Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs in the mainland China will not be lower than his counterpart in Hong Kong or Singapore, because the market is bigger. And if you count their bonus, whatever, I'm sure they don't have to worry about the salary level. Of course, the starting point, you may have maybe 5-10% difference. But if you look at the longer term, the growth potential, the career opportunities, there are plenty.
Right. Well, I'm wondering, I've always hear people saying that Hong Kongers are no longer competitive in the mainland China. In your opinion, can we survive in the mainland China?
Certainly, I never have any doubt that Hong Kong will continue to prosper. My slight worry is what we call the local Hong Kong young people, because now they are facing a fierce competition from what we call the the overseas returning Chinese.
Right.
And I give you an example. Charles Lee, the ex-CEO of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Do you think Hong Kong has no one to do that job? And I remember the selection panel went through, and at the end, they chose Charles Lee. Anybody complain about him? No. But this is a competition we're up against. But we should not differentiate. We are both Chinese. But again, Hong Kong will always be there. Will always continue to prosper. But it's really who would be taking the top jobs in all these major organizations. I remember Hang Jing, when he was still the party secretary of Shanghai, came to Hong Kong when I was the chairman of the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce. And I remember categorically his speech. He said, no, hardware, China can catch, Shanghai can catch up with you in no time. But one thing we are lacking behind is software. And he said, Hong Kong, please, don't because you want to do business with the mainland that you lower your standard. Please move forward, faster and higher. That's where Shanghai can catch up. And I think this is what we should have in our mind. We should continue to lead the charge. Medical profession, legal profession, accounting profession, banking profession. We can all do it. And so I have no worry or fear at all that Hong Kong will continue to prosper. It's just who would be the key players in this major organizations or companies.
Yes.
I think competition always makes us stronger. Make us more competitive amongst, even in the Greater Bay areas, all the cities. We are 9 plus 2 cities. And I think we still have very good potentials for Hong Kong to grow.
And I think that all we need to do is have confidence in ourselves. I mean, Hong Kong still produces many top students. Of course, we may argue that the middle part may not be as confident as before because of the competition from the mainland, but don't worry, we still have a lot of advantages provided you continue to enhance yourself, to educate, to learn more. What we call a continuous professional education. I'm sure we can all find very good positions in Hong Kong.
As I know that Anthony is a multi-expertise person because he is the director of the Sunrise Diagnostic Center and former hospital authority chairperson. So I will ask you another question, moving on from accounting to medical field. You know that the government is asking us to trying to boost the vaccination rate. So as the government is going to let children and youngsters to take the vaccination as well. So how do you think that the government should promote the vaccinations?
I think a few things. I think it's just important that every one of us should go and have the vaccination. Now, there are so many misreporting or whatever. Oh, vaccination cannot prevent you from getting infected. Sure. Taking vaccination doesn't prevent you from getting infected with COVID. But if you are so unlucky that you are infected with COVID, your symptoms will be a lot lighter. The severity will be gone. Maybe you stay home for 2 days, 3 days, you have recovered. And I use a very, very simple energy. Assuming you have 10 units of virus, it's upper respiratory, so it comes in your nose and mouth. And you have 10 units of antibody fighting, right? Antibody lost, the virus goes into your lung. Then you're in hospital in ICU. If you have vaccination, you have now 100 units of antibody fighting 10 units of the virus. You're bound to win. So in the fighting, then you sleep more, drink more water, you recover. So the severity will be greatly reduced. This is one. And second, you actually protect yourself, your family, and your friends, and your colleagues. And thirdly, I mean, we need to reopen. And if you look at everywhere in the world, we're talking of what we call immunity passport, and that vaccination is fundamental. So I think if we want to return to normal life, we should get vaccinated. And okay, we talk about all these side effects and whatever, but I think a lot of them, and I think the government may need to be more precise in reporting about the side effects, because you read in the news 22 people after vaccination were sent to hospital. Can we be more precise? 22 people got sent to hospital, but 21 were discharged within 2 hours. Another one was discharged within 5 hours, one stay overnight. So let people's worry lower people's worry.
But this hasn't been reported by the news and by the media.
But apparently the government has put this up, and it hasn't been reported. And also, if you look at the death rate, which is actually not high, when you compare to other parts of the world, if you have the US data, in fact, the death rate is very, very low. And all vaccination does have side effects. And the side effect, BioNTech or Sinovac, I think they're very, very light. And I have many friends, some over 65 years old, 85 years old, some younger one. I mean, they've all done it, and I think they all feel much happier. They say, at least I feel safe going out.
Right.
So advice, just go and do it. I think this is good for yourself, good for your family, good for your friend, good for the Hong Kong, and good for the world. And as a good citizen.
So maybe you have better understanding or better experience on this. What will the young people who get COVID, what effect will they do, or do the harm to the lungs, or do the harm to the body, or young people get the COVID?
That can be quite bad. Because can you imagine when your lung is not fully developed, when you attack, then I think the long-term effect could be quite serious. And also, if your antibody losses and the virus went to your lung, I think it would be quite.
It will be a permanent damage to your lung.
Maybe.
Even for when you're young, when you have permanent damage to young lung.
So taking vaccination, I think is important.
One of the ways to
yes, we all want to reopen.
Everyone.
Right.
So thank you, Anthony, for coming to the interview today. And we learned so much about the accounting industries and what is our future for accounting and what is the opportunity in the Greater Bay Area for our young people.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.